Good evening. My name is Valentin Figueroa, and tonight I'm going to discuss my current views on race, relation, and policing. Throughout this, I'm going to pull from my personal experience as well as my professional experience. To give you a little bit about myself, I'm currently a police officer. I live in the city of San Antonio, state of Texas. I've been a police officer now for about 14 and a half years. So let's dive right in. Question 1. Describe what influence race relations has had on modern policing. I think race relations has had a major impact on modern policing because they have changed how the public views law enforcement and how law enforcement interacts with the community. Over my career, I have seen departments place a much bigger emphasis on communication, transparency, and building trust. Social media and high profile incidents have also increased scrutiny on police officers, which means every interaction matters because it can shape how an entire community views law enforcement. It doesn't have to be a interaction with the magnitude of George Floyd or something of Breonna Taylor. It could be as simple someone catches you on camera, how you're talking to an individual and not treating them with the utmost respect. That could blow up on social media, and then next thing you know, you're putting a bad light on yourself, and people view the department in a negative way just because the way you treated that one individual. Number 2, does bias exist within police community interactions? Yes, I believe bias can exist within police community interactions because we're all human beings and none of us are completely free from our own experiences and perceptions. Bias can be implicit, meaning it's unconscious, or explicit, meaning it's intentional. However, I don't believe every negative encounter between the police and the citizen is automatically a result of bias or discrimination. In my experience, I've seen situations where people perceive bias when none exists. And I've also seen how poor communication can make an encounter appear unfair, as we saw in our previous assignment with Officer Straight. Poor communication led to a perception of being biased. That's why professionalism, transparency, and communication are so important. Number 3, identify potential strategies you like or would like to see implemented in your community to reduce potential bias relating to police community interactions. I think one of the best ways to reduce potential bias is through communication and procedural justice. I've learned over my career that people are much more understanding when you take the time to explain why you're doing something and treat them with respect. I also think community engagement is important because people shouldn't only interact with the police when they're having a bad day. That's why everyone loves the fire department, because the fire department is there for the good days, they're there for the bad days. Police, only when you see them when things are not going the best, and so it's always good to take the time to coffee with the cop, volunteer, do things so the community, the people that you work for, can see you in a positive light. Finally, I support continued training on communication, implicit bias, and de-escalation because policing is constantly evolving and officers should continue learning and adapting throughout their careers. As a supervisor, I try to remind younger officers that sometimes taking an extra minute to explain something can completely change how a person views not only the interaction, but law enforcement as a whole. Man, the best way I can put this is whenever I tell younger officers, treat everyone how you would treat your mother, your grandmother, your daughter, your son, how you would treat a family member. If you wouldn't treat the person that you're interacting with like you would treat a family member, then you're wrong, because that's how they should be treated. Question 4, how has your race, ethnicity, and professional identity influenced your responses to these questions? Serving the community I grew up in has probably been the biggest impact on my views. I know it was one of the biggest things that I wanted to do. I grew up on the southwest side of town. I've had my negative interactions with officers growing up. I never let that sway what I wanted to be or how I view the police department that I ended up eventually joining, I just knew that kind of made me want to go out there and treat the community with with respect, because they're not just people, they're not just random people to me. They're my neighbors, friends, and people I care about. Because of that, I believe it is important that we treat everyone fairly and professionally. At the end of the day, I want the people in my community to know that the person behind the badge generally cares about serving them fairly and professionally. Goes back to saying, just treat everybody how you want to be treated. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good night.